Jennifer from Flux. In this video, I'm going to show you how to crochet the Color Pop Tote. This is a really easy tote bag to make, and it's fun to make as well. We're going to be using some really basic stitches, and this is made with a self-striping kind of color block yarn, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. But these colors are from the yarn. We didn't have to change colors or anything like that. This is using one cake of the Bernat Pop yarn, and again, it is a self-striping color block type of yarn, and so it creates a lot of fun colors. Our finished bag measures about 11 inches wide, 13 inches tall, and then I've added a 40-inch strap so that I can wear mine like a crossbody across my shoulders. And I will show you though later in the video if you want to make your bag smaller or shorter, or make the strap shorter as well if you want it to be a shoulder bag or a little handbag as well. So let's get started. For this project, you'll need a tapestry needle, a pair of scissors, a ruler or tape measure is helpful to kind of measure as you go along. You'll need a 6mm J crochet hook and your yarn. I'm going to be using a yarn called Bernat Pop by Yarnspirations in the Paisley Pop colorway. I just did a Yarn 101 on this. If you're unfamiliar with this yarn, this is fairly new on the yarn market. It's one of those popular yarn cakes. And it's a self-striping yarn that's sort of slow changing. So it's going to give us some nice stripes on our bag. Okay, so to begin, we're going to put a slip knot on our hook. Our tote bag is essentially going to be a large tube that we're going to work from bottom to top. And then we're going to seam it along the bottom to close up the bottom and do the handle last, okay? So what we're going to do is put a slip knot on our hook. Wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop. Bring the yarn behind the loop, reach in with your hook, bring up a loop, and tighten. Our starting chain is going to be 70 chains. Now this is the time too, if you want to customize your bag and make it narrower or much wider, like a large tote bag, you can make your starting chain really any number you like, as long as it's an even number. So because we're going to add the mesh panel farther up, that needs to be in an even multiple, okay? So we're going to do 70 chains to start. So to make a chain, wrap yarn around hook and bring it through the loop. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 67, 68, 69, and 70. Now, when we look at our starting chain, we can kind of put it in a loop. Now, before we join, just make sure that the 70 is as big as you'd like your bag to be. This is as big as I'd like it to be. So now again, you can change your length of your chain to suit the width of your bag, okay? So if you want to make it bigger, make your chain longer. If you want to make it smaller, make less chains, okay? If you find your chain, a lot of people ask me this, is too tight, just go up a hook size for the starting chain only, and then you can go back down for the rest of the bag to the J. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to join now because we're going to be creating a tube, okay? So go all the way back here to that first chain you made, and be careful that this doesn't get twisted. Let's go back to that very first chain, the chain farthest from the hook is back here, and then we're going to insert our hook. We're going to be joining with a slip stitch to create our tube. So insert the hook into that chain farthest from the hook, wrap yarn around hook, bring the loop through. Now bring the loop that's already on your hook, and then we've joined, okay? So you can see this is going to be the bottom of our bag, and you can let this tail kind of hang down. We can weave that in later. So then what we're going to do is work half double crochets all the way around and work our bag upward, okay? So what you need to do is chain 2. 1, 2. And then in this first chain you come to here, we're going to work a half double crochet. So to make a half double crochet, wrap yarn around hook, insert the hook into that chain, bring up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on the hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through all 3 loops, just like that. Okay, that's the half double crochet. Let's do that again. Wrap yarn around hook, insert it into the chain, bring up a loop, wrap yarn around hook, bring through all 3 loops. Now our yarn, as we work through this cake, is going to change colors. Okay, so right now we're on to the aqua, but we're going to work our tube upward, and it's going to change colors all by itself. So we're just going to work a half double crochet in each stitch all the way across. Okay, so we're just working half double crochets all the way around our tube. And so the bottom of our bag is going to have this aqua color. Now I have noticed that with the cake style yarns, sometimes your particular cake, if you're using a cake yarn like me, sometimes there can be different color to start with. So you might have maybe a green bottom to your bag or purple. So not all the time, but sometimes they start on different colors. And this particular one, the Bernat Pop, you can see a little diagram on the side of the label of the color orders. So that's really helpful too. Okay, so I'm just going to work half double crochets all the way around. Now when we get to the end of this round, I'm going to show you how to close the round, and we're going to move on to the next round. Okay, I'm just working that last half double crochet of the round, and now we're back where we started. So what you're going to do is count, remember we did a chain 2 at the beginning of this round? Count 2 chains up, 1, 2, and then insert your hook, that second chain up, and then bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. So you're going to join with a slip stitch to close the round. So you can see we have the beginnings of our bag. So what we're going to do is just repeat this round over and over. So we're going to begin by chaining 2, and then just work a half double crochet in each stitch all the way around until we have a few inches on this solid part. The reason we're going to do this is because we're going to have a mesh panel in the middle. So we're going to have solid half double crochets, then a mesh section, and then more solid up top. And that's going to give our bag a nice sturdy bottom. And when you have a mesh bag, there's always the possibility of something slipping through one of those large holes, but you want it to sort of be collapsible, you know, to store it and take it with you. But this will give it a nice sturdy bottom and prevent things from kind of falling out through the bottom of the bag. Okay? So what we're going to do is just keep working half double crochets like I'm doing here all the way around here, and we're going to repeat this round for a couple of inches. So work your half double crochets in each stitch for a couple of inches, and then we're going to switch over to the mesh portion of our bag, and I'm going to show you how to do that part next. So keep going all the way around with your half double crochet stitches, and then join to close with a slip stitch, and then just like we did before. And then I will show you how to do the mesh, and we should at some point, here's the blue, we should have some color changes soon. We don't have too much more of this aqua left, so that'll be exciting. It's always exciting when there's a color change. So just keep working this round of our half double crochets over and over and over, get a couple inches on that, and then we're going to switch over to the mesh. Okay, so just working that last stitch of my round here, and then we're going to join with a slip stitch to close the round like we've done before. And then this bottom part, this more solid part of our bag, is complete. Now I went for about 3 inches or so, and we've already had one color change, so it's neat to see how the colors are starting to play out. Now if you want the bottom part of your bag, the solid part, to be a little bit wider, just simply work more rows until you're ready to switch over to the mesh section. And once again, this is a tube, and we're going to be seaming along the bottom here at the end, so you can see how tall that part's going to be. So when you're ready to work the mesh part, what we're going to do is chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then this first stitch that you see here, go ahead and skip that stitch because this chain 4 counts as a double crochet plus a chain 1. So work a double crochet into that next stitch. Remember, we skipped a stitch. In the next stitch, work a double crochet. So wrap yarn around hook, insert the hook into that stitch, bring up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. Then we're going to chain 1, then we're going to skip the next stitch, and in the stitch after that we're going to do the same thing. So work a double crochet and a chain 1. Skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, double crochet, chain 1, Skip the next stitch. In the stitch after that, do the same thing. So we're just doing this all the way around. Skip that next stitch. In the next stitch, work a double crochet, chain one. You can see our mesh is already starting to unfold for us here. Skip the next stitch, work a double crochet into the stitch after that, and then a chain one. Whoops, let me do that one more time. Okay. Skip the next stitch in the stitch after that, double crochet, chain one, skip the next stitch, double crochet, chain one. We're just doing this all the way around our project. Now we still have a good bit of this green left, so we'll probably get that color for our mesh for at least a couple of rounds, I'm guessing. Sometimes it looks like a lot, and then once you get around and it kind of changes over. And then skip the next stitch, the stitch after that, work your double crochet, chain one, and just pull a little bit more yarn here. These center pull balls are so nice to have. They sort of stay put. Double crochet, chain one, skip the next stitch, double crochet, chain one. Now mesh always works up very quickly because we're skipping stitches. So we're really only putting stitches in half the stitches. But that chain one in between gives us a little bit of a divide, so it doesn't pull it in tight. It creates some space there. Okay? Double crochet, chain one, skip the next stitch, and the stitch after that, double crochet, chain one. Just doing this all the way around. And I have to say, these colors are so pretty. It's going to make a really cute bag. All right, continuing around our bag here. And again, if you want the bottom part to be more solid, if you're not quite ready to do the mesh, just work a few more rounds. It's very flexible, very versatile bag. You could even do just a very tiny mesh panel if you like, or none at all. You could just make the bag completely solid. Okay, we're still working our mesh all the way around, and I think we're more than halfway done. We're getting there. Let's go double crochet, chain one, skip the next one, double crochet, chain one, double crochet, chain one, double crochet, chain one. Still skipping and working into every other stitch. That's what's going to create this open mesh look. Okay, so we have arrived at the end. So I worked my last double crochet, chain one. Now remember this chain four at the beginning of the round? Now this chain four, like I said before, it's the first three are the double crochet, and then the chain one functions like these other chain ones. So you're just going to count 3 chains up, 1, 2, 3, and join with a slip stitch to close the round. Okay, just like that. So now we have one round of our mesh, and it looks very pretty. Okay, so I'm going to take you through the next round as well, and then we're going to work several more rounds of the mesh, and then we can do the top part of the bag, okay? So just to transition to the next row, you're going to chain 4. Whoops. Let me try that again. There we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now once again, like the previous round, that counts as our double crochet, chain 1. The first 3 chains are the double crochet, and then we need that extra chain 1 as well. Then you're going to work into the top of each of these posts. So if you look at the top of this double crochet from the previous row, it has a little loop at the top. You're going to work into that. That's the stitch. Okay, so work into that double crochet from the previous round and chain 1. Work into the double crochet that you come to next and chain 1. So we're not really skipping stitches, you're just working into each one of these stitches. And like I mentioned before, when you work mesh like this, it works up very quickly. You'll really get through these mesh rounds very quickly. Okay, so we're just going to do this all the way around, work our double crochet, chain 1 into each one of these double crochets. and it creates a very sort of boxy net-like mesh look. Okay? All right, so I'm going to continue around working my double crochet, chain one into each one of these double crochets, and then when we get towards the end of the round, we'll rejoin again, and I'll show you. It's very, you know, the same basically as what we did before. Okay, so double crochet, chain one into each one of these double crochets. I'm just going to continue around, and we'll rejoin in just a moment. Okay, so I'm just coming up to that last double crochet of my round, and we're just working a double crochet, chain one. Now we're back to where we started, and once again we're going to count 3 chains up. 1, 2, 3. Join with a slip stitch to close the round. Okay? So let me remove my hook. We can look at what we've done. You can kind of straighten it out a little bit. Okay, so we've worked a little bit of mesh, 2 rounds, and I'm going to keep working the round that we just did. I'm going to repeat it over and over to get a mesh section. Now, like I mentioned before, you can make your mesh, the width of it, or the height of it rather, any height you like. I'm going to work mine for a few inches, and then when we rejoin, we're going to work another solid section at the top, and I'm going to show you also how to make the handle as well. Okay, so I'm just working the last mesh stitch, double crochet, chain one, and now we're going to join to close the round with a slip stitch. So I worked this mesh for about 8 inches. Okay, so we have our solid bottom, we have a section of mesh, and things have changed color-wise as well. So we've gone from this aqua to this bright green onto the bright purple, and now we're starting to work into this more muted plum color. So the next part of our tote bag is we're going to do a solid top part of our tote bag as well. So we're going to go back to the half double crochet stitch, and we're going to work a couple rounds of that as well. So let's go back to the ruler here. Now we have about 3 inches of solid half double crochet stitches. So we're going to do the same thing and mimic the bottom of the bag for the top of the bag. So all we need to do is we need to set up our rounds. So we're going to transition from mesh to solid. So what we need to do is chain 2. 1, 2. Then what we're going to do in this first space that we come to, this chain 1 space from our mesh, we're going to work a half double crochet into that space. So wrap the yarn around the hook, insert the hook into the space, bring up a loop, wrap yarn around the hook, bring it through all 3 loops on your hook. Then we're going to work a half double crochet into this double crochet stitch, and then work a half double crochet into the next space, half double crochet into the next stitch. So we're going to be alternating between spaces, like I'm doing here, and stitches. We're going to do this all the way around our bag, and that is going to help us transition from the open mesh stitch to the more solid top part of our bag. Okay, so I'm just going to work all the way around. Let me get a little bit more yarn here. You can see these colors are just playing out so beautifully. Okay, so let's flip our bag over here. So I'm just working half double crochets into each space and stitch that I come to. So working into the stitch, half double crochet into the space, half double crochet into the stitch, and that is creating a solid top of our bag. And again, the bottom solid part of our bag was 3 inches, so I'm going to work this half double crochet section for about 3 inches as well. Okay, so we're just working all the way around. And if you've been crocheting along with me, you will see just how quickly this bag is working up. Okay, so we're just going all the way around. Just grab some more yarn here. It's kind of stuck back there. Okay, work it into the stitch, work it into the space, work it into the stitch, into the space, in the stitch, in the space, and we're just doing this all the way around. If you're not familiar with working into the stitches and the spaces, this is a great way to practice and learn how to do that. Okay, we're coming around, getting there almost to the end here. We're a little more than halfway. Okay, so I'm coming up to the end of the round here, and once again, just working those half double crochets to each stitch and each space. So here I am at the last space, just work a half double crochet, and then remember that chain 2 at the beginning of the round, just count 2 chains up, join with a slip stitch to close the round. So now we have at the top of our bag, we've set up our round to do the solid portion of the bag. So we're going to just continue working half double crochets once again for about 3 inches, okay? So to move on to the next round of our bag, we're going to once again chain 2, and then this round is a little bit easier. We're going to just work half double crochets in each stitch all the way around. So just work half double crochets in each one of those stitches all the way around the bag. Now that we have our half double crochet round set up from the previous round, it'll be really easy just to work 1 half double crochet in each stitch all the way around our bag. So I'm going to continue with this round. We'll rejoin. I'll show you how to close off the round really quickly, and then we will continue with the top part of the bag. Okay, I'm just coming up to the end of the round, working that last stitch, and then we're going to do the same thing. Just close it with a slip stitch to finish off that round, okay? So I'm going to keep working the round that we just did, that half double crochet round. I'm going to keep repeating that row until this top solid area is a total of 3 inches to kind of mimic what's going on down here at the bottom. I think we're going to get another color change happening in just a bit with this bright raspberry color, so it'll be a nice way to top the bag. And then we're going to move on to the handle and then get all the seaming and finish work done last. So just keep repeating the round that we just did over and over until you get about 3 inches, or if you want your height of this top portion of the bag to be a little bit different, just work as long as you'd like it to be. Okay, so I'm just working that very last half double crochet into the last stitch of my round here. And then what we're going to do is join with a slip stitch to close the round. And then this top portion is complete. Now I made mine, this solid band at the top, I made mine have the same height as the band at the bottom, just for, to give it a symmetrical look. However, if you want this to just be a smaller band or much wider, just keep going, or you can stop, sooner than I did. So now we're ready to work the handle. So when you're making your own bag, you'll want to decide, do you want this to be kind of like a shoulder tote? So that would have a smaller handle. Or do you want this to be a crossbody where you wear it on one shoulder and it crosses over the front of your body and sits on the opposite hip? So I'm going to make mine a crossbody tote bag, but you can do whatever you want, and you can make the handle as long or as short as you like. We're just going to be continuing and working upward to make the handle. So you can either measure ahead of time and kind of stick to those measurements, or you can try it on as you go along, which is what I normally like to do. Just crochet a little bit, try it on, see how it works. If it's too long, you can pull out a couple of rows. So what we're going to do is we finished up our round, so now we're going to start working in rows. We're going to work in rows to create the handle, and then later we're going to reattach it to the other side, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to work the same half double crochet stitch. So in this first stitch, we're going to work a half double crochet. In the next stitch, we're going to work a half double crochet. We're going to do this for a couple stitches across, just so we can get some nice width to our handle, okay? So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now check the width of your handle. Is this how wide you'd like it to be? If you want it narrower, go back a stitch or two. If you want it wider, of course, work some more stitches. I'm going to make mine 2 more stitches for a total of 8. So work 8 half double crochets across, and so that'll give us a nice wide handle. And that's nice as you put things in your bag. It won't kind of dig into your shoulder. Okay, so our handle is 8 stitches wide, and then what we're going to do is chain 2. 1, 2. Then we're going to turn our work. So flip your bag over, and this chain 2 counts as one of our half double crochets. So this very first loop that you see, you're not going to work anything to that one, but work a half double crochet into the next one. So that's 1, half double crochet in the next one, that's 2, half double crochet into the next stitch, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 at the end here. It might be a little bit more of a slant because it's at the end. But because that chain 2 counted as one of our half double crochets, we're going to work only 7 stitches because that counted as 1 to make it 8. Okay? So then chain 2, 1, 2, and then we're just going to keep doing this for the entire handle. Okay? So once again, that counts as one of our stitches. So hop over that first loop there and work 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 into that chain, see at the end there. Okay, so our handle is becoming established. Chain 2, 1, 2. We're just going to be doing this for the whole handle. All right, so once again, work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. That last one might be a little bit snug. Okay, so we're getting a nice handle on our bag now. Okay, once again, chain 2, 1, 2, turn the bag, and we're going to keep going with that. 1, 2, let me slide my yarn over, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 at the end there. Okay. All right, so you're just going to keep repeating this row of half double crochets over and over and over until your handle is as long as you would like it to be. So what you can do is imagine the handle coming across, up, and back over to this opposite side. So when you go to try it on or you're measuring yourself, you'll have an idea of how long you'd like it to be. So I'm going to keep working my handle, and then we will rejoin in just a moment, and I'm going to show you how to finish off the handle. We're going to attach it, and then we're also going to close up the bottom of our tote. Okay, so I'm just working that last half double crochet for the strap. Now I just repeated over and over for the length of the strap. Now, like I mentioned before, you can kind of try this on as you go along. Just, you could even use a safety pin and just kind of clip it on for a moment and then try it on and see. I made my strap about 40 inches long. You may need to go a little longer for a taller person or shorter for a child or a shorter person, but mine was about 40 inches long in case you're wondering. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to attach our strap and seam up the bottom, and then our tote will be done. So let's go ahead and we can do one of two things. You could either crochet this right on, but I'm going to sew mine on, okay? So grab your scissors and you can just simply cut the yarn, leaving yourself about an 8-inch, 10-inch tail or so. Fasten off the yarn, And then you're going to grab your tapestry needle. We're going to be seaming the strap on, and we're also going to be seaming this bottom part. Let's do the strap first. So you can eyeball this if you like, or you can measure it, whatever you like to do. You could even count the stitches to see if they're of equal distance. And I just wanted to point out my color changed halfway through the strap, so I thought that was really fun. I think that made for a really neat looking bag. So what I'm going to do is I like to eyeball things. So I'm going to take this tail. This tail is sufficiently long. If you're concerned, just leave a little bit of a longer tail if you're worried about running out of yarn. But we can just go ahead and thread our tapestry needle and just put it opposite. You could even fold this. Let's move this strap so I can show you. You can even fold this way. See how my strap now is flat? And line it up that way as well, just to make sure everything's nice and flat. So just hold your strap like this, and then you're going to kind of flip it down. We're going to be sewing from the inside. We don't want this to be showing on the outside. So once you get everything lined up, we're going to whip stitch seam it. Now when you look at the top of your bag edge and the top of your strap edge, you can see there's a series of V's all the way across. We're going to sandwich this together, and we're going to insert our tapestry needle into the first layer of V's. That's 2 loops that I'm going into, and 2 loops for the strap. See that? How it's sandwiching and both V's are incorporated. And then just pull it through. Okay? Now do this layer and just go 1 stitch at a time all the way across, incorporating both of those layers to whip stitch seam it together. The whip stitch is a really basic seam to join 2 things together in your knitting and crochet projects. You're simply just creating a spiral, and it's a nice, neat, and flat stitch, and you don't really need to be an expert sewer to do the whip stitch. It's very, very easy to do, okay? So I'm just coming up to the end here into both layers, and then what I like to do before I pull the tapestry needle off is go back into that last loop like that, and then don't pull it all the way through. Come back through the loop with your needle, and you're just creating a knot without having to undo the tapestry needle from the yarn. Oops, I didn't mean to pull that out yet because I want to show you one more thing. Let me just rethread that. Okay, then while it's still threaded, act like I didn't do that just now, just go right into the bottom edge here, and we're just going to weave that end in. Now stick to, see how I'm using the aqua yarn and I'm weaving it into the aqua section. I'm not going to weave it into this purple section because it's going to stick out and not look as neat. Okay, so just come back in the other direction, and then you can trim your yarn. And our strap has been incorporated. It looks nice and neat, okay? So the top of our bag is completely done. Now I have an end here. I'm going to go ahead and weave that in later. Let's do the bottom bag now. So here's the bottom of our bag. Now remember, we did a tube, so we need to seam up the bottom of it. Now the tail that I have here is not nearly long enough for what I need. So I'm just going to weave that in just so it's out of the way. So again, you want to stay in the aqua section of your bag. Don't go up into this green section with your tail because it'll stick out. Now we spent a lot of time making this bag, and it looks gorgeous. So when we do our finish work, we want to make sure it's nice and neat and that we take our time. Okay? So let's seam up the bottom. Now you can crochet this close. I'm going to seam it with the whip stitch once again. Let's grab some of our yarn, and I happen to have aqua because that's what I ended up on. If you don't, just try to conserve a piece either at the beginning when you start, or you can just kind of disguise it the best you can. Or if you have another type of yarn that's a similar color, it's always good to seam your stuff in a similar or the same color. Okay, so I did about 24 inches or so. Now what we're going to do is turn the bag inside out. Now this stitch, the mesh stitch and the half double crochets are fairly reversible. This almost has a herringbone quality on the other side. But we're going to treat this as the inside of our bag. Now what you're going to do is the same thing we did for our handle. You're going to line up those edges. You're going to sandwich those together, and then we're going to start seaming. We're going to work from right to left and go all the way across. So start in the corner here, just like that, and bring the yarn almost all the way through till you have a few inches there, okay? Next, go ahead and just tie that securely. I'm going to do 3 really secure knots, nice and tight. Then we're going to sandwich this together, and we're just going to start whip stitching all the way across. Now once again, you can slip stitch crochet or single crochet this across. It's totally up to you, but I'm going to do the whip stitch. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and work my stitches all the way across. We're doing the same exact thing we did for the bag handle. We're just doing this on a larger area. And once again, this bag is inside out right now, so that when we flip it right side out, it's going to look nice and neat. Okay, so let's continue across. And once I get towards the end of this edge, we'll rejoin and I'll show you how it looks, and we'll finish up our bag. Okay, I'm just coming up to the edge here with my whip stitch seam. And as you can see, I do have a good bit of yarn left. I always like to have a little bit extra than not enough. So this is my last stitch. Now pull it almost all the way through and see, leave yourself a little loop, then send your needle through that loop and you can give yourself a nice knot to tie it off with. Okay, I'm also going to add a few extra just to make sure it's secure so my bag doesn't come apart. So just tie that off nice and securely. Whoops, my knot wasn't placed right. Okay, so we're just gonna get a nice sturdy knot on there. Okay, then you can cut a little bit of that excess off with your scissors, and we're gonna weave that last little end in. And then we're gonna turn our bag right side out and look at our handiwork. Now, if you want to, halfway through when you're doing the whip stitch, you can turn the bag right side out just to see how you're doing. Once in a while, a seam won't look exactly the way you want it to. Whoops, here's an end here. I'm going to just weave that in really quick. But sometimes when you're seaming things, your your edges might not look exactly the way you pictured them. So you can always pull it apart and just re-seam it. Sometimes you have to go in all the loops, the back loops or whatever to get it to lay nice and straight too. So if you need to back up a little bit and redo it, totally fine. And I wove these in, I just have to trim them. There we go. Okay, so our bag is complete. Let me just turn it right side out and we can check it out. This is such an easy tote bag to make. And it's so functional to have for all kinds of different purposes. And the bright colors make it fun for kids as well. Okay, so here is our seam. It gives it a nice sturdy bottom. I'm just going to get that nice and straight. And our bag, we have that solid half double crochet bottom, our mesh middle, and then we have, now I'm not sure if you opted to make your strap as wide as this one, but I love having a wide strap. It sort of helps to leverage the weight in the bag. It makes it a little bit more comfy. So we have our nice wide strap, our mesh tote, and let me just flip it over so you can see this side as well. So our tote bag is complete. So that is how you crochet the Color Pop Tote. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest Fiber Flux video updates. Thanks again.